Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're gonna be going over what I've been eating lately, and I have some quick and easy recipes for you all. Starting off with a super warming, comforting breakfast, I'm gonna be making a pumpkin spice oatmeal. To a pan, I add some soy milk, the pumpkin puree, and some pumpkin spice seasonings like cinnamon and nutmeg. Once the milk started steaming, I added in my oatmeal and chia seeds and then topped it off with a bit of crushed walnuts and a little more maple syrup. There are definitely times when I'm too tired or just don't feel like cooking anything, so having recipes on hand like this creamy polenta that only takes about 5 minutes is so helpful. You just heat the milk with a bouillon cube and your spices before adding the polenta, and you stir it for about 5 minutes and it's gonna get nice and thick. And then I topped it with some tomatoes, fresh oregano, and a little bit of olive oil. And if you wanted to make it a more rounded meal, you could also include some white beans on top. But this was perfect for me. It was savory and fresh from the tomatoes and so delicious. This week was pretty busy in the garden. I harvested the last of my turnips and leeks, and I also had a squash laying around from earlier this year. So inspired by all that good produce, I decided to make a soup, and I also had some oyster mushrooms, which were slightly past their prime, but they made the perfect base of umami for the soup. After the mushrooms and leeks were brown, I added in some couscous, some turmeric, and then the squash and the turnips. I also had half of a can of pumpkin from my oatmeal that I need to use up. And making a big pot of soup is always the perfect way to use any old vegetables you have in the back of your fridge. It's important to not overlook the importance of adding some herbs to your broth. It gives it a nice, subtle depth of flavor and some added antioxidants. I was cooking the soup on this antique wood-fired stove that came from my grandma's house in Vermont. It reminds me of all the time we spent there and all the good meals that must have been cooked on it. While the soup bubbled away, I had this sparkling botanical tea, which was very delicious. On the wood stove, the soup cooked a lot quicker than usual, so it was a really nice, quick meal. This was the perfect soup for a chilly day. All the fresh veggies and different layers of flavors from the herbs and spices made it warming and comforting with just some simple ingredients. This next recipe, if you can call it that, is one of my favorite things I used to eat after school, and it's literally just some toast with melted butter, cinnamon, and sugar. The toast gets warm and crunchy, and then the sugar and the butter melt into it. Food should absolutely make you happy, and with the nostalgia and the top tier flavors, you can't go wrong with this one. Out shopping this week, I found a huge packet of these kimchi noodles, and they were absolutely delicious. The spiciness level did not disappoint. They were definitely spicy. So I also had some cucumbers with rice wine vinegar, and just look at that noodle pull. They were so good. I also got some granola cookies with peanuts and chocolate in them, and I would definitely recommend them if you are a soft cookie type of person. I had some barbecue corn chips and a different flavored botanical tea while we watched one of the matches from the World Cup. One of my favorite things to make for lunch or breakfast that's super quick and easy are a simple black bean and cheese quesadilla. You add your tortillas to the pan with some oil and let the cheese get nice and melty. And then you sandwich it with another tortilla on top, and then you can flip it and let it get nice and toasty. And after it cooks on both sides, it's gonna be all nice and melty, salty, so good. Earlier in the week, I had some extra rice made, so I am making a kimchi fried rice. For some reason, I enjoy everything when it's chopped into cute little tiny pieces, so I chopped up my kimchi and sliced up my green onions using the bottom half, the white parts, to fry with, and then using the green parts at the end of the recipe. I sauteed them in some vegan butter and then added my garlic. I then crumbled in a block of tofu that I had squeezed the extra water out and seasoned it with some gochugaru and some nutritional yeast. I let the tofu get nice and crispy on a medium to high heat before adding in my leftover rice. I waited for the rice to get nice and crispy and then added in the kimchi, some soy sauce, and the green onions. I also cut some strips of a nori sheet to go over the top before mixing it all up and finishing it with a little bit of sesame oil. Thank you for watching, and if you end up making any of these recipes, I'd love if you let me know on Instagram, and I will see you all soon.